Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Business Insider recently did a feature piece on a young woman named Miriam and her journey to retire early. And I thought there were quite a few key takeaways from this piece, so I wanted to go over it. So let's go over the basics first. According to Business Insider, this individual has an annual income of roughly $80,000, which puts her in the 71st percentile for individual income earners in the US. When it comes to her investments, she has roughly $375,000. That puts her in the 81st percentile. In other words, she is killing it. Miriam is currently 43 years old, and she has the goal of an early retirement at the age of 55. At this point, she would like to have 7 figures in investments. But here's the kicker. She really only got serious about investing 10 years ago when she was 33, and at the time, she had $50,000 in investments. I definitely think it's a solid start and an impressive start for someone in their early 30s to have $50,000 in investments. But here's the thing. I would also say it's very realistic and attainable to most people, even if you start with very modest level savings in your 20s. Starting at, say, the age of 20 and investing $200 a month, you could have amassed something like $50,000 by the time you're 33. So she said she learned about the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, when she was 33. And said, I got really motivated to save and invest more in my retirement accounts. And look at what happened when she had an attitude shift. Suddenly, she was taking investing and saving seriously, and she was able to find a way to put away roughly $1,000 a month. Looking at her income of $80,000 a year and saving $1,000 a month puts her at a savings rate of 15%. And that is right where financial pros recommend you be. And I think that can be a really important thing to focus on. If you can find a way to have modest savings, something in the neighborhood of 15%, as long as you're investing that money and putting it to work, it's very realistic that you can generate 7 figures in investable assets. And you may be able to do this in a fairly short period of time. Consider that this individual is looking to retire at the age of 55. That is arguably a very young age to retire. A lot of times when you conjure up this image of retiring early, a lot of times you think that must require extreme sacrifice. That must be that someone is trying to aim to save 30 or 40% of their income. And for most people, that's not realistic. But if we think about saving 15% of your income and then consider that early retirement may still be possible at that threshold, that makes it much more realistic. I think examples like this are impressive and encouraging. And if she can hit 7 figures by 55 and wants to step away from the workforce, more power to her. But let's say she hits 55 and for some reason she enjoys her job, or she wants to do a different job. Maybe she doesn't want to quite retire yet. Maybe she wants to work until the age of 65. What could another 10 years do to this portfolio? $1 million left invested without even adding anything to it could easily double in those 10 years. So she's doing something really powerful. She's taking advantage of compounding by putting her money to work. The other thing I found really interesting and noteworthy about this woman prioritizing FIRE and savings and investments is that she lives in a very expensive area, the Washington, D.C. metro area. And I think we tend to get a lot of pushback when people talk about how hard it is to save when living in a high cost of living area. A lot of people say that you need at least a 6-figure income just for a middle-class lifestyle and forget putting anything into investments and savings at that level. Well, Washington, D.C. isn't a modest cost of living area. Unfortunately, this article didn't go into details on her housing situation. Is she renting? Does she have a house? Does she have a partner or roommates? So we're kind of left guessing on what is usually a pretty big piece of the puzzle. But I still think this speaks to the possibility of pursuing an aggressive savings or early retirement when you live in a high cost of living area. It may not always be the easiest route. You may need a partner. You may need roommates. You need to downsize your living situation a lot of times. But just because it isn't the easiest route, it doesn't mean it's impossible. One of Miriam's biggest savings tips was actually one I hadn't heard before, but I love. She says whenever she has a significant expense coming up, whether that is a trip or a concert, what have you, she figures out what it will cost and then she challenges herself to reduce the cost by 10% and then put that 10% into savings. She says it's a simple way to invest more. My immediate reaction to that was, what a great philosophy. Say you have a trip coming up, rather than prioritizing savings so heavily that you forego the trip entirely, you budget out your trip. Maybe this trip costs $3,000, but then you set out and find ways to reduce your expense by 10%. You find ways to cut costs by $300, then you take this $300, put a boost to your investments, and then you still get to go and enjoy your trip. It seems like such a win-win. You get to go on your trip, you get to have an amazing experience, and you get to give a little bit of a boost to your investments. You get to check both boxes. And I think that's so important. I think it's important to find ways to enjoy today while also prioritizing saving and investing for your future. She also notes that one of the biggest contributors to her being able to invest so aggressively has been to not have an auto payment for the past 15 years. Prior to that, she had an auto payment of $450 a month, but when that final $450 payment was made to the car company, she continued making $450 payments, but this time to her investments rather than upgrading her vehicle. And I am in the exact same boat with her. I drive a 16-year-old Jeep that I absolutely love, and I have zero desire to upgrade my car. I'm going to drive that car as long as it wants to be driven. My car looks great, drives great, and gets me where I need to go. That's all I need a vehicle to do. And I did the exact same thing that she did. Once my car was paid off, I made monthly contributions to what I eventually dubbed my car fund, and then I just let it sit there. And then one day, when that day comes that I do have to buy a new car, the funds are there to accommodate that purchase. Also, I think the price of vehicles are astronomically high. If you can find a modest vehicle and drive it for a very long period of time, I feel like that move alone can be a great asset to helping you build wealth over time. And I think a lot of times the true cost of car ownership and transportation gets overlooked, when in reality, outside of housing, transportation is likely your biggest expense category. For the typical American, transportation can easily eat up 15% of your budget. So if you can find a way to reduce this cost, absolutely do it. There's a reason why cars have been dubbed a wealth killer, and I actually did do a full video on it where I took a deeper dive into this side of things. So if you're interested in checking it out, I will link it down below. And I know maybe it seems like I'm beating a dead horse with this topic, but it seems like such common sense to say don't upgrade your vehicle every couple years. But it's not. I kid you not, I have the oldest car on my street, and it is a constant point where my neighbors are telling me to buy a new car. Let me pull up some recent texts from the head of my HOA, who recently thought I bought a brand new car. I did not. I was letting a neighbor park in my driveway while they were on vacation. But we live in a world where it's seen as strange if you're not upgrading to the latest and greatest thing. And I think that's strange. The final really commendable point that this lovely woman discusses is her thirst for financial knowledge, stating, "Becoming financially literate was my secret weapon against debt and to instead build wealth." She says that she's constantly plugging numbers into compounding calculators, and let's face it, if you're in the personal finance space or interested in personal finance space, that's something we all do from time to time. I know I'm totally guilty of it. She says she's constantly reading books and articles from experts, and I think that's such a great attitude to say that no matter where you are, you always have room to grow, and I think that is immensely helpful for yourself. And I know a lot of people in this audience have the exact same attitude. It's why we're here sitting watching personal finance videos on YouTube. It's why we read the articles and listen to the podcasts. It's because we're fascinated with the subject, and hopefully we pick up just one nugget of information in that article or in that podcast. And sometimes we just listen for the intention of staying the course. I thought this woman was incredibly impressive, and I just love an everyday person going out and killing their goals. If I were to offer any advice at all, she did say that she was prioritizing retirement accounts, so the assumption here is that most of her investments, or maybe all of her investments, are going into her work-sponsored retirement plans. So I would say make sure that your retirement plan offers something like the Rule of 55, so you can actually access those funds when you decide to step away from the workforce. And it never hurts to have money within an account that you can access without any restrictions whatsoever. So I think something like having a brokerage account available to yourself, putting some money there, could also be a good plan. But I think the huge key point to make her retirement at 55 accessible and something that could work is to make sure that your work plan offers the Rule of 55 on it. More than anything, though, I just loved that this was a very real piece on a very impressive woman who is working very hard to accomplish her goals. Her goal is to hit 7 figures in just 20 years' time. That's very impressive. So a big kudos to her and good luck on everything she is setting out to do. And I think her example shows that you can accomplish great things without having to do extreme sacrifice with your money. So what are your thoughts? Do you have any impressive goals that you would like to share? Share them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Off to a rough start. Okay. Second video. Let's get it done. Let's be quick because I'm gonna go nap. Individual income earners. Smoother. Slow down. When you live in a high cost of living area, I did not like that. Didn't like it. Let's redo it.